We often assume that a high IQ looks like a person who always has the answers, moving through life with unwavering confidence and a visible sense of superiority. However, cognitive psychology suggests the reality is often the exact opposite, where high intelligence is masked by a profound sense of self-doubt. The Dunning-Kruger effect shows that people with lower ability tend to overestimate their competence because they lack the very tools needed to recognize their own limitations. Conversely, those with higher intelligence frequently assume their skills are common or even subpar, leading to a phenomenon known as the imposter syndrome of the gifted. You might view your constant overthinking, your tendency to stay quiet in meetings, or your social detachment as personal flaws or signs of inadequacy. In reality, these traits could be the byproduct of a highly efficient neural architecture that is simply processing more variables than the average person can perceive. Research suggests that gifted individuals often struggle with feelings of being an outsider, not because they are broken, but because their internal world is significantly more complex. This occurs because your brain processes information differently than 98% of the population, filtering for depth while others are satisfied with the surface. Today, we are exploring 5 psychological signs that your IQ is higher than you realize, moving beyond the stereotypes of math geniuses and trivia experts. These are not just personality quirks. They are measurable indicators of high cognitive potential that fundamentally change how you interact with the world around you. Number 1. You find yourself frequently bored by repetitive tasks that others seem to complete without issue, often feeling a physical restlessness during routine activities. Psychology calls this a high need for cognition, a personality trait strongly correlated with elevated intelligence and a desire for effortful mental activity. Research suggests that highly intelligent minds are wired to seek out constant novelty and complex challenges because their neural pathways require more fuel to stay engaged. When the environment lacks sufficient mental stimulation, your brain essentially enters a low-power state, which can lead to a paradoxical drop in productivity. This isn't a lack of discipline or laziness, but a sign that your cognitive hardware is idling, waiting for a problem complex enough to justify the energy expenditure. As a result, you might struggle with basic administrative work or laundry while excelling at high-level strategy, coding, or solving intricate social puzzles. Your mind is optimized for deep investigation and creative synthesis rather than surface-level maintenance, making mundane existence feel strangely exhausting. If you are often labeled as restless or easily distracted, it may simply be your intelligence demanding more intellectual fuel than your current environment provides. This relentless curiosity is the engine of progress, pushing the highly intelligent to ask, why, long after everyone else has accepted because. Number 2, you often notice patterns, systemic errors, or solutions almost instantly, sometimes before others have even finished identifying the problem at hand. Cognitive psychology calls this neural efficiency, and it is a biological hallmark of high IQ that separates gifted processors from standard ones. Research suggests that highly intelligent brains actually use less glucose, essentially less energy, when solving difficult problems compared to average brains. Rather than working harder and firing every neuron in a chaotic burst, your neural pathways are organized to take the most direct and logical route possible. This allows you to bypass irrelevant noise, ignore distracting data points, and focus immediately on the core variables that will actually determine the outcome. The consequence is a sense of intuitive knowing, a feeling where you simply see the answer without having to consciously step through the logic. You might find it frustrating or even socially isolating when others cannot see the obvious connections or logical fallacies you've already identified and moved past. However, this speed is simply your brain running on a more optimized operating system, processing life in high definition while the world moves in standard resolution. Recognizing this efficiency can help you manage your expectations of others and appreciate the unique clarity of your own cognitive lens. Number 3, you often find yourself standing on the periphery of social gatherings, observing the interactions rather than feeling a deep urge to participate. Psychology shows that high intelligence is frequently linked to a heightened sense of social monitoring, an analytical approach to human connection. Instead of focusing purely on the emotional flow of a conversation, your brain is busy analyzing body language, power dynamics, and hidden motives. Research suggests this tendency stems from a brain that instinctively prioritizes structural data and abstract patterns over immediate emotional impulse or social scripts. You might feel socially awkward or slow to respond, but this is often just the result of intense situational analysis happening behind the scenes. Your mind treats a dinner party like a complex social puzzle to be solved and understood rather than simply an experience to be felt. This can lead to significant social fatigue, as you process 10 times more information per minute than those who are just chatting. While others enjoy the surface flow, you are busy mapping the invisible currents of the room, identifying who is being honest and who is wearing a mask. This observational prowess is a key component of high social intelligence, even if it makes you feel like an anthropologist in your own life. Number 4, you have a constant internal monologue that critiques, evaluates, and debates your own thoughts and actions as they happen. Cognitive psychology calls this metacognition, which is the rare and advanced ability to step outside yourself and think about your own thinking. Psychology shows that individuals with higher IQs tend to have more active metacognitive processes, creating a layered experience of reality. This means you are not just experiencing life as it comes. You are actively analyzing your reaction to it, your biases, and your potential errors. While others might act on pure impulse, you are likely evaluating the logic behind your next move and forecasting the consequences of your words. Research suggests this internal oversight is a sign of advanced cognitive architecture, allowing for a high degree of complex self-regulation and error correction. The real-life consequence is a heightened sense of self-awareness that can sometimes feel like a burden, leading to analysis paralysis and a lack of spontaneity. However, this ability to self-correct and evaluate your own cognitive processes is what allows for rapid learning and the mastery of difficult skills. When you catch yourself thinking about thinking, realize that you are performing a high-level cognitive function that most people never engage in. Number 5, you are highly adaptable and can thrive in environments where the rules are constantly changing and the future is uncertain. Cognitive psychology calls this fluid intelligence, which is the capacity to solve novel problems without relying on prior knowledge or rote instruction. Research suggests that high IQ individuals do not just follow existing protocols. They naturally invent new ones as soon as the old ones become obsolete. When a standard method fails, your brain doesn't panic. It naturally switches to divergent thinking patterns, looking for the third option no one else noticed. You likely find it easy to connect disparate ideas from different fields to form a single, coherent solution to a unique problem. Psychology shows that this mental flexibility is a far stronger indicator of raw intelligence than the ability to memorize facts or follow a manual. The real-life consequence is that you are often the person others turn to during a crisis, even if they don't explicitly know why they trust your judgment. Your ability to remain functional and creative under intense uncertainty proves your brain is built for high-level adaptation and survival in complex systems. Adaptability isn't just about going with the flow. It's about having the cognitive power to map the flow and navigate it perfectly. While high-level adaptation is a powerful asset, it often comes with a significant psychological cost that many mistake for a disorder. Research suggests a strong positive correlation between high IQ and a tendency toward chronic overthinking and generalized anxiety. Psychology shows that intelligent minds are naturally better at forecasting potential risks, identifying systemic vulnerabilities, and predicting future outcomes. This cognitive ability allows you to plan effectively, but it also triggers constant, what-if, scenarios that the average person never even considers. Cognitive psychology explains that this constant simulation of possibilities can lead to a state of mental gridlock where every action seems potentially flawed. Your brain essentially refuses to stop processing until every possible variable has been accounted for and every risk has been mitigated. The real-life consequence is a state of mental exhaustion known as cognitive fatigue, where you feel tired even if you haven't been physically active. If you struggle to turn your mind off at night, it is likely not a sign of weakness, but a symptom of high processing power running in the background. Learning to manage this analytical engine is the primary challenge for the highly intelligent person who wants to find actual peace. You likely prefer a small, tight-knit circle of intellectual peers over a large, busy social network of acquaintances. Evolutionary psychology offers a fascinating explanation for this preference, known as the Savannah Theory of Happiness. Research suggests that while most people feel significantly happier with more social interaction, highly intelligent individuals actually report lower satisfaction the more they socialize. In fact, frequent socialization can actually decrease the life satisfaction of those with a high IQ because it conflicts with their internal goals. This occurs because your mind is often focused on long-term projects, abstract intellectual pursuits, and complex problem-solving that requires deep concentration. Small talk, social rituals, and hanging out may feel like distractions or noise that pull you away from the deep work you truly value. The real-life consequence is a perceived aloofness or introversion that is actually a strategic preservation of your limited mental energy. Being alone isn't about being lonely for you. It is about providing your brain the quiet, distraction-free environment it needs to function at peak capacity. Your desire for solitude is not a social failing, but a biological requirement for your specific type of intelligence to thrive. Another subtle but consistent indicator of a high IQ is a specific and often highly complex sense of humor. Psychology shows a strong link between verbal intelligence and the ability to process puns, wordplay, and layered metaphors almost instantaneously. Research suggests that humor requires rapid cognitive switching and the ability to view a single concept from multiple, often conflicting, angles simultaneously. Cognitive psychology calls this abstract reasoning, which allows you to find hidden connections in language that others might miss or find confusing. Specifically, an appreciation for dark humor or satire is often correlated with higher scores on both verbal and nonverbal IQ tests. This is because processing a dark or complex joke involves managing emotional distance while performing sophisticated mental mapping of the irony involved. The real-life consequence is that your jokes may sometimes land awkwardly in a general crowd, not because they aren't funny, but because they are too fast or too layered. However, your wit is actually a testament to your brain's ability to manipulate information in real time at a very high frequency. If you are the one making the obscure references that only a few people get, you are signaling a high level of verbal and cultural processing power. Perhaps the most surprising sign is that you are often the first person to admit when you don't know something or when you might be wrong. Psychology identifies this as intellectual humility, a trait that is paradoxically more common among those with high cognitive abilities. In the Big Five personality model, this is closely linked to openness to experience, the strongest personality predictor of high IQ. Because you understand the vast complexity of most subjects, you are less likely to fall for the illusion of explanatory depth that plagues many people. You aren't afraid of new information that contradicts your current beliefs because your primary loyalty is to the truth, not to your ego. Research suggests that high intelligence allows individuals to detach their self-worth from their opinions, making them more flexible thinkers. The real-life consequence is that you are a lifelong learner, constantly updating your internal map of the world as new data becomes available. While others dig their heels in to defend a point, you are busy asking questions to expand your own understanding. This willingness to be wrong is the ultimate sign of a mind that is too large to be contained by simple certainty. It is a common myth that high intelligence means being naturally talented at every task or subject, from math to mechanics. In reality, cognitive psychology identifies jagged cognitive profiles, where an individual may have genius-level verbal skills but struggle with basic spatial orientation. You might feel like a failure because you struggle with common-sense tasks or simple coordination, but this is actually very common among high IQ individuals. Your brain's high-level specialization often comes at the expense of automated, low-level functions that most people take for granted. Research suggests that the more energy the brain dedicates to complex reasoning, the less it may allocate to mundane procedural memory. This leads to the absent-minded professor archetype, someone who can explain quantum physics but forgets where they parked their car. The real-life consequence is a feeling of being smart but stupid, a confusing state of being that can lead to deep self-criticism. Understanding your specific cognitive profile allows you to stop punishing yourself for your blind spots and start leveraging your true strengths. Intelligence is not a flat score. It is a complex landscape of peaks and valleys that makes your mind unique. If you recognize yourself in these signs, it is time to stop viewing your cognitive habits as social defects or personality flaws. Your boredom with the mundane, your need for solitude, and your tendency to overanalyze are not obstacles to a happy life. They are the tools of a powerful mind. Psychology shows that high intelligence is a lifelong journey of learning how to manage a brain that never quite wants to stop working. By understanding the biological and psychological roots of your behavior, you can move from a state of confusion to a state of purposeful self-awareness. Don't feel pressured to fit the standard mold of normality when your hardware was designed for something far more complex. The world needs your ability to see patterns, your intellectual humility, and your capacity for deep, independent thought. The first step to reaching your true potential is simply acknowledging that you have it. Embrace the complexity of your mind, for it is your greatest asset in navigating an increasingly complex world. Thank you for watching, and remember that intelligence is not about what you know, but about how you think.